I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. Welcome to the Black Excellence and Abundance channel. Asia. Asia is approximately 60% of the world's population. Included in this population is a group known as the Negritos. The Negritos are indigenous to Asia. This term was first applied by the Spanish sailors of the 16th century. The term is still in use today to refer to a distinct ethnic group living in various parts of Southeast Asia and the Asian Pacific Islands. According to James J.Y. Leung, author of the book The Art of Chinese Poetry, the term Kunlun is the equivalent of Negrito in Chinese. By the way, the Kunlun in China were actually slaves. The Negritos of Asia were also known as the Aring Asli, meaning the first or original people. This term would come into use in the 1930s in response to efforts by the Malaysian government to officially recognize them as the region's earliest inhabitants. Did you hear me, folks? Let me repeat that. The Negritos, also known as the Aring Asli, were the first people or the original people in Asia. Another name they were known by was the Simang, or debt slaves. Like the people of Africa, the Negritos were abducted from their homelands and sold into slavery. Now, we never hear about these people, these black people of Asia, but they did and they still exist. The original people of Asia. The Asiatic Black man. Just as a quick recap, Negritos equal black people. Kunlun, black people. Aring Asli, the original black people of the region. Simang, debt slave, black people. All equal the same original indigenous black people of Asia. Same people, different names. And we know that historically, when these lands are invaded, the colonizers come in, they change the names of the people, they change the names of the lands, and they chop them up. So you'll have places with different names, but it's the same land. People with different names, but it's the same people. The defining physical features of the Iring Osli include dark brown or black skin, curly black hair, and small stature. The average height for men is 5 feet 5, and the average height for women is 4'8". According to geneticists, these amazing people are actually the modern descendants of the first migrant populations to venture into Asia more than 50,000 years ago. These ancient people share the same genetic bonds to today's Asians, although many modern Asians will not admit this fact. The proof is in the DNA, the land itself, and the many hidden artifacts which still exist today. They all bear witness to these facts. Archaeological finds from across the continent suggest that these hunter-gatherers once lived across Asia, from India to the southernmost regions of Japan. The southern islands of the Pacific Ocean were also once part of their domain, as well as the southern continent of Australia and the neighboring islands of Tasmania. Now, Tasmania, that's a whole nother story altogether. And many of us are familiar with the Australian Aboriginals, but how many of us know about the history of Tasmania? I encourage everyone to please look that up. So, in essence, the original Asians were black people. The Asiatic black man, woman, and child. Now, their territory today is a very small remnant of what it once was, and that is no accident. It's by design. The Asians in power today purposely hide the original people of the lands to give the impression that they either never existed or that they no longer existed. And this, however, is not true. Unfortunately, the original people of these lands have been limited to only isolated parts of, for instance, southern Thailand, Malaysia, the Philippines, the Andaman Islands, and Papua New Guinea, just to name a few. Just imagine that. Call it what you want. But the fact is, these people have been zoned out of their own land. The Ida, or sometimes called the Ida people, are what's known to be the original black race who inhabited the Philippines before any other group invaded. Anthropologists and historians estimated that they arrived between 20,000 and 30,000 years ago. Today, their numbers are estimated to be around 15,000 people. Now, they're described as people who are dark or very dark brown skin with curly to kinky afro textured hair. And some of the alters was reportedly to have lighter hair. Another key feature, according to the historians, is their small stature and small frames, which we stated earlier. Again, the Negritos, alters, same people, different name of the Philippines. The modern day original inhabitants of the Philippines. And this is what they look like today. Or should I say, what we look like today. Let's talk about the black presence in early Japan. Although the island nation of Japan is not considered a black nation, it seems indisputable that black people occupied the region which is known as Japan today. Indications of an early presence in ancient Japan have been unearthed from the most remote ages of the Japanese past. For example, on February 15, 1986, the Japanese Associated Press reported that the oldest Stone Age hut in Japan had been unearthed near Osaka. Archaeologists date the hut to be about 22,000 years ago and said it resembles the dugouts of African Bushmen, according to Kazumo Hiros of Osaka, Preferential Board of Education's Cultural Division. Other homes, almost as old, have been found before this, but this discovery is significant because the shape is cleaner, better preserved, and looks like the Africans, he said. Now, this information can be easily looked up online. The Ainu are an indigenous people who primarily inhabit the island of Hokkaido in Japan, but also live in the north of Honshu in Japan's main island. There are more than 24,000 Ainu in Japan today. In 1923, anthropologist Ronald B. Dixon wrote that this early population of Japan were in the main a blend of Proto-Australoid and Proto-Negroid types, the Australoids being the Australian Aboriginals. In his last major text, published in English in 1991, the brilliant Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop pointed out, I put forward the hypothesis that the yellow race must be the result of inbreeding of black and white in a cold climate, perhaps around the end of the upper Paleolithic period. This idea is widely shared today by Japanese scholars and researchers. In 1997, former Senegalese President Leopold Sedar Senghor noted that the people who populated the island of Japan today are descendants from blacks. He stated, let us not forget that the first population of Japan was black, and gave Japan their first language. Japanese proverb states that for a samurai to be brave, he must have a bit of black blood. Why must they have black blood? Shikana no Tomomura, a black man, was the first shogun of Japan. Wangichi wa Gachugu. On part 2 of our presentation, we will be looking at black people in Thailand, Indonesia, Cambodia, Malaysia, and other places where you would not think that black people actually reside. Not only reside, but black people have been there from the very, very beginning. And let's not forget the Aboriginal Australians. The Black Excellence and Abundance channel, where black history is every day. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And as always, never forget that thou art rich.